So our topic for today is shadow IT at the speed of AI. The term shadow IT has always been this just albatross around our necks that was a four-letter word.
Yes.
How is that starting to change and reshape with AI now becoming so prevalent?
I think like almost everything with AI, it just amplifies everything. So the scary parts of shadow IT could actually be scarier these days. The good news on that is I feel like with those same tools, you can use it to start to rein it in. And the end all solution to shadow IT was always a conversation. It it was always, in my opinion, good people trying to do what they thought was good things. And maybe there was too much red tape, or maybe their priorities didn't align with the company's priorities or security's priorities or IT's priorities or things like that. But this is a golden opportunity to have that conversation now and get everyone on the same page. How do we do this? How do we safely build? How do we safely host? How do we safely share? And don't even get me started on external access to the client.
Well, and one of the things, even historically, that always surprised me, again, sitting on the IT side and discovering these shadow IT efforts, was what people were able to build without the proper tools.
Yep.
I mean, people, even forget AI, long before AI, built impressive things
Yes.
just through grit and desire.
Yep.
And now to be able to enable those people to, with the right guardrails, build the right things, build faster. They've got the business knowledge. The goal should not be to crush shadow IT. It should be to bring it into the light, shape a program that enables them to do it safe, secure, maintainable, and drive business value. This is what we've been trying to do for ever.
Yes, those are your champions.
Right.
Those are who you need leading the charge to not be shadow IT.
Right. Bring them into the fold.
Yes.
The right way.
Yes. I saw a geologist one time self-train himself on doing a C# and built a WinForms app. We didn't catch it until he asked for permission to, I think, replicate prod down to tests where he did have access, which was an interesting request in itself. But, and I'm not going to lie, I went in there with a little bit of software engineer snobbery of like, well, how good could he? Did pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I mean, geologist was a great software developer. If he had Claude today, I would love to see what he could do.
Oh, it would be mind-blowing. A lot of people are going through the journey of figuring out what can AI do, what are its limitations, the good and the bad. But you've been deep inside of a customer right now that is working through, how do we manage this? What does that look like?
It's a really interesting time to live. I feel like I should give a more technical answer there, but that's sincere. Like imposter syndrome is at an all-time high. People are wanting to do things and they are starting to do things, but are they doing it the right way? Are they doing it the wrong way? Should they be doing this? These are all the questions that seem to come up. But it's been so rewarding too to see people pick up these tools and what they can produce and the value it's providing. It's starting to establish a pattern, kind of like we've talked about, that growth of as you embrace AI and start to learn it.
So what are some of the top things that you've seen, like where somebody just had this crazy idea, I'll say 6 months ago, was out of the realm of possibility, and now someone's coming home from a long weekend, it's like, I got excited, this is what I created.
Yeah. The challenging the art of the possible, I feel like the ceiling just went a mile high. I've seen an engineer pick up the tool and develop an application that orchestrates across meeting scheduling, photos, and uploads for analysis and collaboration, all just through. That's the other thing I think I struggle with these days is the terminology, like vibe coding. Is that what we call it?
Yeah. Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
Right. And I think it started out with a negative connotation, but in another way, I think it does have some positivity to it.
And to that point, I mean, we see so many, the business comes and has just written an amazing thing, and it does a lot of true business value scenarios. And they go, hey, look what I built. It's like, man, that's amazing. What does it do? I don't know.
Right. Yes.
How does it work? I have no idea.
Yeah.
But it's awesome. And they're not wrong on any of those accounts.
Yep.
And it's an interesting world right now where, I mean, you and I've joked before where 10 years ago when Microsoft Power Apps came out as one of the key first citizen development tools that was in the mainstream, and IT departments went crazy scared on, what do you mean we're going to let people outside of IT develop something in Power Apps, which has an immense amount of security and connectors and controls and balance around it. And there was fear of letting that go to anybody besides almost professional developers. And fast forward a decade, and now we're in the scenario that we've got here where we just enable anybody and everybody to write whatever they can dream of and have no idea what they're doing foundationally, but they're producing something that's valuable to the business.
Yep.
So where do you start to see those guardrails and putting some structure around that says, yes, we want to enable everybody to drive value and be creative and innovative. I mean, we've been talking about being innovative it's been a theme since digital transformation, 15 years ago?
Yep.
And now it feels like we could actually do it. We could actually just hit a button and stuff happens. But at the same time, what are the guardrails there for? Security, maintenance, consistency, trainability. That individual wins the lottery and leaves. And now somebody else has to maintain the thing they don't even know how they built.
What I hear you saying is we finally have the chance to live the dream that we all thought back in the day. And now that we're living it, is it safe? Is it secure? Is it really the dream? Or are there just all these other aspects to it that we didn't know about when we were dreaming it? I think it's really interesting in terms of those guardrails. I was at a conference a month ago, and one of the big oil and gas players made the comment that internally they had taken the citizen developer approach of let chaos reign and then rein the chaos back in. And having been in the seat, not one of the big players necessarily, but seeing that go down, I was shocked because I had seen much more of a conservative IT approach of let's be careful here. And then Claude came along, and it's kind of like, yes, we're seeing where that gets enabled for an entire company. And even if you want to get a lot of training and stuff, there's not a lot of options available. It's changing so fast. It's a struggle for me to keep up with it and then be able to go speak to it and bring others along. But that's so important, especially these days. Finding this balance of everything is changing. How do you keep up? As a software developer, the experience that I have does help when you focus in and see what's happening. Case in point, when it starts to hallucinate, when it starts to bring in a library, and I'm like, well, now I've got Claude, so this is great. Well, turns out that Claude took a lot of the same approaches I did back in the day. And so being able to kind of stop it and say like, hey, wait, whoa, go check this out before you go too deep. I want a different answer. Let's think about this holistically. But having that experience to know when to stop it, when to step in, when to have the deeper conversation with it, versus this is something that I understand there's no security impact to it, like it's a read-only thing. You've already got so many other concerns handled. I'm going to let that go. And that sounds a little scary in one way, but in another way, we are pushing through so many changes so fast. It's not hard to make the argument that it's impossible to review every single thing, even though I'm so responsible for everything I put out.
And that's a great point of that level of responsibility. We've collectively as a software development industry have gone through our own waves of how do we do this without AI for the last 30 to 50 years have been refining that process. And even some of those refining steps still never really got executed.
Yep.
Continuous development, continuous integration, continuous deployment, code scanning, test-driven development.
Yep.
We pushed all of those things to the side because as developers and as a developer community, you're like, I wrote this, I know what it's doing. It's fine. Testing was that side thing that, yeah, we all agreed should happen, but when push came to shove, it was the first thing that got jettisoned off the boat to make sure we met deadlines. Well, now we're coming full circle, and the only thing you should be writing are test cases and letting AI tooling develop the application and plan for it. All the code scanning that we, again, pushed off to the side is necessary now because nobody's handwriting all of that. Professional developers who still wrote security holes back in the day now have to make sure that code they didn't even write is secure and putting those processes in place. So we've almost turned it around where the individual user who's using the tooling is the architect across the entire platform, running an entire team, and you run that whole pipeline. Cake comes out of the oven, already done, and it's like, is this the right cake? Do we know what we're actually building here? And is it going to function for what we actually intended it to?
I sure hope it's carrot cake because that's what I wanted. But there is no guarantee that's what we end up with, or maybe there's just a carrot on top kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. And I love what you're saying there about the person being the architect, the one directing and organizing and pushing that team in different directions. That is something that if you're doing it right, that's what you're doing. But that's not how Claude works out of the box. You have to know and opt into that. And there's good ways of doing that. And then there's other ways you can do it that can lead to more hallucinations. And if you don't know what an app is doing and you've got a PM agent that's over here crafting deadlines and stuff, and you don't know what they're doing either, it's just going to get complicated really quick. When you step in that role as an architect, have you been an architect before? Have you been in that situation of knowing why it's important for like the agent writing the code needs to be a different agent than the one testing the code? When that agent writes the code, what model did you use? All those underlying LLMs are revving, and each one seems to almost have a personality, sometimes a personality conflict that doesn't always work the way the previous one did and such. When I first started getting into the development with it, I was using ChatGPT to just write code with my prompts. And that felt like having an intern software engineer that I was working with, giving him work to do. Sometimes it's good and not. But now with Claude, especially with the agentic development workflows and everything, it is a whole team. And it gets really powerful and really scary really quick.
Yeah. And with the uptick that we've seen with co-work and some of the other things, I was talking to a CISO earlier today, and we were going through deployment of Claude in this case and what that looks like out in the business. And my point to him was, well, recognize if your security posture is correct for your business users, you should be fairly safe. They shouldn't be able to write to systems that they couldn't otherwise. They shouldn't be able to pull data that they shouldn't otherwise. So usually that's pretty tight. But if you give it to your IT administrators who have all the access in the world, have the credentials to do really great things and really bad things when mistakes are made, that's more risky than giving it to the business. Because they already inherently, with something like co-work, if they authorize something that they're not paying attention to, really bad things can happen. And putting in those guardrails, we have to think about that security posture differently when we're handing off that work and it's running on your local machine as an individual under your credentials that needs that heightened level of access to the entire ecosystem in an enterprise. And so there's models around that. We've worked through separating those things out, isolating them. Microsoft has just announced at Build this week, the new containerization inside of WSL in Windows, they're isolating all of those processes now so that you can run them as different users and give them their own little bubble to operate in on your local machine.
Nice. I'm so glad you brought up security too. I think back to things like SAP firefighter roles or having an admin account separate from your normal user account, and being in admin roles or working with admins. It was a pain, and sometimes depending upon the scrutiny that was required. But now, we just raise the stakes. When I go to a customer, if they want to give me access to prod, I'm asking questions because I don't want that stress of knowing that I asked Claude to do something in dev, and because I had access to prod, it still could. And I'm so glad you brought up security there, because we do have a Novus 3-level approach to security with Claude that we're working with clients on. And that's such a refreshing conversation to walk into the CISO or the security team and be able to have that. I feel like you can sometimes see a little bit of relief in their eyes, because just there's so much, and it's all different pieces. And spoiler alert on that, it's not just one thing. You can't just update your Claude MD and hope for the best.
Right.
You have to have this multifaceted approach. It's almost like the say what you're going to do and then do it and then verify that you did it. But maybe 3 more times.
Yeah, and it's not like you can just tell your AI agent, hey, by the way, with whatever we're doing, make sure it's secure. Oh, okay, we'll do that, and never look at it again. The amount of hard boundaries that have to be put in place. All of this is to enable your business users, your IT teams, your teams out in the field to create and innovate in ways they never have been able to before. And this goes through that learning journey that we kind of see everybody, whether it's a CIO, CFO, individual contributor out in the field, at a retail store, they all have a different journey in when that light bulb comes on. The first one is you end up with that, hey, I'm using ChatGPT and I'm asking questions. I'm creating itineraries for my trip, or I'm getting plans for a recipe or a meal prep for the weekend, whatever the case is. And it's more this just kind of glorified search engine with some chatbot functionality. And then somebody goes in and, okay, I'm going to analyze some data, whether it's personal or work or whatever the case is. And I'm just going to give it my data and see what comes back. And you're like, oh, wow, I may never have actually been able to do it myself. And so you kind of go through that. And then at some point, it's almost like the blinders come off and that realization light bulb comes on. And it's like, we can do amazing things. And I've heard many stories, even IT professionals who still went through that same journey. And then they're like, I spent 8 hours developing something that I've always wanted to do, that I've never thought was possible. And it produced it, and it's amazing. And then they're bought in, particularly for the IT leadership folks. Eventually they're going to get to the realization, and they always come around to it, of, I built this amazing thing. I want to give it to other people. And, oh, this only works on my computer. Or a business user comes and says, hey, I did this great thing, deploy it. I want to share it. And you look at it and go, well, this isn't built in a way that's feasible. And then that starts to sink in, oh, there's a lot that we still have to do to make this an application that is built for a department or for a company to be able to use across the board. And it goes back to what we were talking about: security, networking, infrastructure, data persistence.
Yes.
All those things, your API connections, pulling in data, your data management layers. I really love what we're doing with our customers, helping them through that journey where it used to be we would go in and develop the application for them, and the cost of that for them was accurate, but a lot. And ROI had to be so analyzed, because it's if we're going to spend 6 months or a year doing this, how do we ensure that we're getting the value out of it? Well, the math on that changes so much these days.
Yes.
When I can produce an app in a week or two, I can test it for 3 or 4 weeks to really solidify it, security testing, all the things, all the disciplines for software development, and then put it into the infrastructure that is hardened already and can be managed by the IT organization. And even though it seems like we're dragging that on from, we were done in 2 weeks, it's ready. Well, that's an MVP.
Right.
Now we have to harden it. Now we've got to make sure that it's something that isn't going to put the company at risk, but you're still taking it from 6 to 12 months down to 2 months.
Yeah.
And even then, forget the calendar time. That 6 to 12 months took 10 people. This 2 months takes 3, if that, and just because there's different disciplines involved, and you're something out the door that nobody would have ever dreamed picking up 24 months ago.
I think one thing on that is what is being developed is beautiful. Like, to the human eye, it looks like an amazing application and everything.
Developers that can do UI.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes. But not having the experience of being able to see past that, will that ever work on another machine?
Right.
Will that, is in its current state, will it only work on that person's machine? Can you just put it on a shared drive and let people go to town? Well, back to security. Are you embedding your security tokens in that app? And now someone else has your access? Because that's scary. Earlier, you'd mentioned, how do you keep people innovative? Don't stifle innovation while keeping those guardrails in place. So one thing we've been working on is, it's a workflow end to end. And the idea is that all ideas are valuable. Not all ideas are equally as valuable. So maybe not the whole let chaos reign the chaos in thing, because that still scares me a bit. But maybe it's more of a let all ideas flourish to a point. And then at that point, like what we've established is a gate to where that now goes into not just IT, but also the business in the form of like an AI champions group. And so IT works with that champion group, which is people from the business, people actually building these apps. And it's basically app rationalization, but and if that gives anyone, makes you start twitching from digital transformation times and such, it's actually a super light kind of thing. And what you're really doing there is just trying to analyze the idea. Is this a good idea? Is this not? And then capturing that in such a way that you're now enabled to make good choices. Do we want to park this for now? Maybe there's an upgrade or something that we're waiting on in order to go forward with that idea. So let's log that and everything. And then this one's a good one. Let's go ahead and let that go through to the next gate. And that next gate, that's where IT gets highly involved and all the guardrails come up. Because in my opinion, at that point, you're not an idea, you're an enterprise app. And that raises the game so much more. And then each organization is going to come up with their own criteria to say, like, as soon as more than one person uses it, or as soon as it's department wide, or as soon as it touches a certain area of data or type of data, that's when we need to lock that down. Some organizations turn on Claude for the whole org, and then they immediately get a flood of apps built by the business ready to go to prod, and IT is not opposed to it. You can tell every time IT is never opposed to it. They just want to make sure that they're doing it the right way. They're enabling the business. They're providing that value. And so that's what we're trying to do, is help set up those guardrails, and then also leave that lineage of every single decision. Why was it made? There, with all these tools available, I feel like that's becoming less and less of an excuse not to document as you go. Because once you go into that next project, or someone wins the lottery, how was that built? Well, it's even worse now because AI built it. So you've got to have that governance in place. Otherwise, it's just a ticking time bomb in prod, to where something's going to break. No one's going to know how to fix it. No one knows how it was built. And how critical it is, what do you do now?
And our calculations over what something takes all have to change. I mean, documentation was always one of those things that was never done because it took so much time and nobody ever read it. Well, one, now it just gets generated for you. You just have to make sure you do it. You have to make sure you have a process to store it with the project. And it absolutely will get read, because the next time somebody goes and develops on the app, the AI needs to read all that documentation to make sure it doesn't just go completely sideways. I think we're going to have to get more accustomed to starting from scratch. I think apps will develop over time. You'll reach a point and you'll have to back up to the originating problem set, add your new flavors of changes that have come in, and run forward again. We used to see this in traditional development where an app had been developed for so long. Some of these apps, 10 years in the enterprise, were just developed and pieced on and bolted on here, and this was torn out, and a team would come in and go, okay, well, we need to do a full refresh. We got a lot of new requirements. And somebody looks at it and goes, you don't want to modify this. We should just burn this thing to the ground and start over with what you really want to do. And the cost of that was a very challenging balance.
Yes.
Nowadays, as we've been talking, the cost of that is not much different. You still need to run all your tests. You still need to do all of your deployments. You still need to validate all of your security. All of that should already be automated. But going back to the original problem set and regenning the entire app from zero lines of code,
right?
Because your real value is in the requirements.
Yes.
Your real value is in the business and process discussions you had to define those requirements, which we always touted, we always advocated for.
Right.
Technology was never the problem. Getting the requirements right was the problem. Well, now you can truly, besides focusing on the requirements, you can see the results of that requirement so much faster. You can iterate through so many cycles of changes because nobody gives requirements the right way.
Mm-hmm.
We're terrible at it. This is just human nature. But we can respond to the application very easily. So when you can iterate through that requirements process by seeing it actually in the app in almost near real time, you just end up in a better place, but you got to regen that documentation. You've got to reestablish the baseline to stay with the application long term. And so all of our math on how we figure out how long does an app live, what's its maintenance, what's its shelf life, all of those things is completely on its head at this point.
I love when I get to do the training and a big majority of the audience is business analysts by trade. These are the people that live, breathe, eat requirements. They know it inside and out, and they've probably worked with devs that have different varying ideas of what a good requirement is. And so being able to make that connection, say like, hey, Claude's going to help you do what you've already been doing, and showing them how to do that and how to create those requirements, even how to extract those requirements from an app. Like you said, if you've got an aging app and everything, is it a good idea to enhance it or rebuild it from scratch? And I'm with you, like that makes me cringe thinking about it even 6 months ago.
Right.
And so now being able to extract those requirements and rebuild is like it's never been before. I mean, we can do that, make it better, make the security consistent across apps. I mean, all of these things we always dreamed of doing just gets better and better.
And we can do that for people who don't know what they're doing.
Yes.
It makes it even easier to some extent.
Yeah.
Because if we layer in that foundation with the pre-instruction set, with configuration in our enterprise AI platforms, everybody can follow the standards without a thought.
Yep. To that point, an anecdote, I have seen a client where someone makes a request, I need you to enable the security, turn this on, and put it in prod. The ticket was telling the infrastructure team how to do it because they asked Claude, why isn't this working? And they said, well, you need to ask them to do this.
Yeah.
Kind of cool in one way, but in another way, those instructions it built has nothing to do with that infrastructure team's process, how they log the tickets, how they do the changes, and Claude took the easiest path to get there. Yeah, just run this thing.
And that's why I still like to have my hands in our environment, because I get those from our folks and I get to see and help shape them. Hey, one, seeing the answers that AI is generating that's not infrastructure that you should put in place. That's right. Not secure. We're not doing it that way. But also helping our folks learn how to shape that when they're going to clients,
right,
and need to produce that for them. Okay, this is too verbose, or this isn't really how an infrastructure team thinks about the network. Have it structured and phrased in this model. So that I should get out of it more. I like having my hands in it because I get this firsthand experience of what teams inside of organizations are going through as they see it coming back and forth.
In this day and age that we live in, I'm constantly trying to come up with a good analogy to share with customers or friends and family. I mean, it comes up all the time with AI. What's the best analogy that you've heard of so far?
The closest thing that I've been able to come up with is the scenario of going through and building your house, which also works because we used it in software development forever. You wouldn't start your house by just saying, hey, construction crew, go build me a house. And then after a little bit's been built, you go, oh, that's not even close to what I wanted. We always start with a blueprint. We get our architect, we sit down, we talk through what we think we want, and you go through all those iterations. Usually you start grandiose, and then you see what that's going to cost, and you whittle it down a little bit, and the theater room was 5,000 square feet, and then it became a little more reasonable. But you start with that blueprint, and now everybody has the same plan to go execute against. And that's no different than today. We've got to make that plan. You've got to start with your requirements. You've got to start with an understanding of conceptually, directionally, where do we want to go? And then in real life, you have your general contractor usually who's going to go through and have the crew and read the blueprint and go, okay, here's what we're going to build. Here's how we're going to build it. Here's the order of operations to build it correctly. This is how we make sure it's up to code. And on the outside as the homeowner, you get to experience that to some extent as it progresses. You get to walk through it and go, no, this isn't exactly what I was thinking. Can we make this small adjustment? Can we make a small adjustment over here? And it starts to take shape. You add your cabinetry, you add colors, your paint, flooring, all of those decisions are made in the proper order. And for the most part, I mean, millions and millions of houses have been built. They come out pretty well. Well, with AI, you're the general contractor and the architect,
Yep.
and you're the one trying to make sure it's up to code and making sure that the doors have locks on them for security and that the house faces the right direction. And so not only do you build the blueprint with AI, you're the general contractor and you have to tell it what to start doing. And even in the same scenario, if it gets down the path of building it out, AI building it out, and you're like, I need this room to be on the second floor, and in this other room, I want it to be on the first floor. Well, in software development, it's the same thing. If you start moving parts around when the foundation is already there, wiring, plumbing, some of that's already been done. If you do that in real life on a house, it may try to make it work, but it's probably not how you build it out of the gate if you knew that ahead of time. And so the same's true with when AI is building your software. There's times where you're like, this just isn't working. I've made so many changes. I'm going to go back to the requirements. I'm going to refine the requirements. I'm going to define which floors I want every room on. And then I'm going to have it come back forward from scratch. And you get just such a better experience being confident in tearing everything down and starting over and coming back forward than just continuing to iterate and iterate and iterate. Because again, with the speed of AI, it may feel like you only iterated on that for a few days, but you did 10 years worth of development, in theory, in destructive behavior across your application.
Yes.
In a rapid amount of time. And throwing that away and starting over and coming back forward lands at such a better product.
I think of all these scenarios, those applications, those monoliths that are out there that have 10 years on them, not one dev built them. I can almost guarantee you. You've had different people come in. It's almost like an archaeological dig when you go in there. But now having the ability to regen a room at a time. Of course, you're probably going to have a few things along the way. Like I told it to paint it blue and every room is a different shade of blue.
Right.
But then you learn, hey, in the blueprint, let's go back and mark down what color of blue we want. And when we say paint everything, does that mean the wires in the walls? I mean, because you're going to get some of that too. And it's always going to try and find the shortest path, all those kinds of things. So it's such a good analogy. It really is. John, this has been a great conversation. I always
absolutely
love these.
And we have these conversations every day across all different kinds of industries. And they're some of the most exciting conversations I've been able to have in my career because they are so broad and they are so exciting, and they change every day. And so I always have people go to our website, novusconsulting.com. They can reach out to us on LinkedIn, Novus Consulting, or we have lots of network. You know somebody, contact anybody at Novus that's inside your network already, and they can connect you through to the right people.
It's been a pleasure. I'm Josh Hawthorne.
John Carney, and have a great day.